We read in these 3 verses here in Revelation chapter 2, "To the angel of the Church of Ephesus write, he who holds the 7 stars in his right hand, who walks in the midst of the 7 golden lampstands, says these things. I know your works, and your labor, and your patience, and how you cannot bear those who are evil. And you tried those pretending to be apostles and are not, and have found them liars. And you have borne and have patience, and for my name's sake you have labored and have not fainted." Now, by way of quick review, these are 7 letters to 7 particular churches in Bible days, and there were obviously more than 7 churches, so it's believed by most that these were representative of different types of churches. And by way of extension, because the first verse of chapter 1 talks about this is to God's servants, of which you as a Christian and I are, it can be applied individually to us. And I believe that the churches of today should listen to this too. I believe that all churches today and all believers fall into one of these 7 different categories or 7 different characteristics. And I believe we can switch from one to another depending on our disobedience or obedience to the Lord. Most commentaries that I read, and I read a lot of them in preparation for this little 10-minute study, focused on the works of the Church of Ephesus. They talked about their accomplishments, their hard work, their patience, how they endured, their attitude toward those evil people who pretended to be apostles and were not, and how the Ephesians never gave up. They never fainted. But for me personally, the thing that stood out to me most when I studied these verses here was the phrase, "I know thy works." Now, one of my personality traits is that I have a strong desire to be a people pleaser. That's not a good thing. It has caused me over the years in any job I've ever done or any work I've ever accomplished, because I want people to approve and I want people to like me, it's caused me to work extra hard. And people have from time to time appreciated that and said that. Others didn't even notice it, and that was always frustrating to me. But when I got saved, my focus shifted a little bit. And when I began to realize that I could do things for the Lord Jesus Christ and get approval from Him. See, we can't always please people in things, but I discovered that no matter what I did in life, I could do it as unto the Lord. In Colossians, there's these 2 verses. This verse here says, "Whatever you do, whatsoever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord, and not unto men." And the great thing about this is that Jesus always knows what I'm doing, and He always knows how hard I try, how much effort I put in, and how I give it my best and my all. And He said to the church at Ephesus, "I know your works." And there may be a lot of things that you do for the Lord, or that you do just in life in general, that no one ever notices. Maybe you're one of those people who kind of works behind the scenes, so to speak, and maybe you're a little bit like me in that you at least like some acknowledgement. Well, as a Christian, we can rest assured that Christ knows our works, and He gives us that nod of approval. Well, going on, after Jesus approves of the great things that the Church of Ephesus is doing, He says, in essence, I have good news and bad news. The good news is you did good, and He lists all those things. The bad news is I have something against you. And here's what it is. You've left your first love. Now the question is, what is our first love? Most Bible teachers say that the first love is referring to the love for God or for Christ. And they often give this verse. It's actually 2 verses in the Old Testament called the Shema, which means just to hear. And it was given from God to the nation of Israel. It says in these 2 verses, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might." And then Jesus, He said that this is the first and the great commandment in Mark chapter 12, and He added the words with all thy mind, and He said, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength." This is the first commandment. Now, other Bible scholars say, well, the first love here is referring to the Ephesians' love that they have for each other as Christians, and they give the verse In this chapter, Ephesians 1:15, therefore I also, hearing of your faith in the Lord Jesus and love to all the saints. And still other Bible scholars suggest that it's for both. It means the first love means your love for God and your love for each other. Then the explanation of what it means to have left your first love, oftentimes given, is a picture of either a husband and wife, a man and a woman when they first fall in love, or a person for the first time when they become a Christian. Their enthusiasm and their intenseness and their excitement, like when young lovers or new believers are so excited about the Lord, and young lovers are so intense on each other they're oblivious to everything around them, and they just focus all their heart on that, the focus of their love, the one they fell in love with. But I'm not so sure about this personally. I think that true love can change, but not in the sense that it decreases. When I first met Donna, I fell in love with her, and in the beginning my emotions played a great role in my relationship with her, and I could literally feel my heart skip a beat and my eyes light up when she'd walk in a room. But now, 42 years later, those first emotions that I experienced when I fell in love with Donna, they've kind of given way to a more consistent, deeper, mature love. It's different. Not that I love her any less. It's just I fell in love and had one set of emotions, but they're different stages of love. The same with a new Christian. Those early days of being saved were filled with lots of emotions and excitement and discoveries about the Lord himself as I read the Bible for the first time and discovered certain things. But as I grew in the Lord, this relationship became deeper and more mature. And my understanding grew, my relationship with the Lord grew. Outbursts of emotions weren't necessary anymore. So this doesn't mean that I didn't love the Lord any less than I did at conversion. It's just in a deeper and more mature way. So if first love does not mean the zeal and the excitement and all the feelings of going along with the first that we first experienced, whether as a new Christian or our love for the love of our life now, what does it mean? Well, in a word, it means quality. That's all. It's talking about whether my love for Jesus has the very first place in my life. When a husband puts, say, sports or television or hobbies or the internet on the computer before his wife, even though at the same time he's faithful to her, he's still fond of her, he can't imagine life without her, and he devotes his remaining time to her, he still has put these things before her now, and then he'll lose his first love for his wife. When passion or our love for Jesus begins to decline, we've already, right then, lost our first love. We've left our first love for him. And the Lord must always have first place in our life. For the Church at Ephesus, their good works, their labor, their patience, these things had taken first place, and their fervent love for Jesus had taken second place. The principle is fervent love for Jesus first, and then service for him afterwards. It's important to serve the Lord, obviously, and it's because he says, if you love me, keep my commandments. Yet so many Christians work hard for the Lord, but they hardly have true fellowship with him through studying the Bible, through prayer, through listening to him, just being still in his presence, having a quiet time. Here's a quick illustration. A paraplegic lying in bed, can't move a thing. Here's the gospel, get saved. They can believe, accept the fact that Christ died for them, that he's alive. He offers them salvation in his own righteousness, and that's their ticket to heaven. But that paraplegic can't do a thing for the Lord. He just lays there in his bed day after day. He can experience the stages of love, be extremely excited and joyful, and discover things as perhaps someone reads the word to him and he hears and understands and grows. Then as he lays there day after day, week after week, year after year of his life, gets bed sores, learns the struggles of life as his disease goes on and he can't move, his stages change. He becomes a deeper in love with the Lord, more mature in his love, more dependent, more gratifying love for the Lord. But he can never do anything for the Lord. See, you may not be able to do something for the Lord, But if you still put the Lord Jesus first, then he is your first love. And that's what he wants from us, not to leave our first love of having him first. Even if we can't work for the Lord anymore, even if we can't serve the Lord, even if we have no skills or talents or abilities, even if we can't do a thing for him, if we put him first, that's what he expects and wants of us. Thank you.